Now onto the great exhibit game. Well, the most anticipated game of the 2022 Tournament of Champions is now here. Matt Amodio, Amy Schneider, and Mattea Roach are competing against each other in the exhibition game. This has been hyped up by Jeopardy fans, and even more by the staff. I wasn't a fan of the comparisons being made for all three. It wasn't until the tournament began when I finally understood why I don't like those comparisons. Exclusively naming Matt, Amy, and Mattea, especially when there are 21 champions in this tournament, all of whom are formidable, just feels like a popularity contest. I also wasn't too fond of the idea that they all got byes into the semifinals. I have a much stronger argument now that Ryan Long and Jonathan Fisher lost in the quarterfinals. Even before the tournament began, the idea wasn't all that great. David Madden lost in the Tournament of Champions semifinals. Neither Julia Collins nor Arthur Chu won the 2014 Tournament of Champions. Matt Jackson came in second place, and Seth Wilson and Jason Zufrinieri lost in the semifinals respectively. The only super champion to have won of the Tournament of Champions was James Holtzauer. None of this stopped the hype for Matt, Amy, and Mattea in the exhibition game. Jeopardy's social media accounts uploaded 3 different posts, one of which was Austin Rogers naming drinks after them. 12-day champion Austin Rogers didn't win the Tournament of Champions, by the way. So this got a lot of hype. And it's just a game where nothing is at stake. Let's get right into this. After thanking Johnny Gilbert, Ken Jennings' introduction was, and welcome everyone to the special exhibition game at Jeopardy! The 3 players here on the stage with me became record holders, not only in season 38, but in the Jeopardy history books, as 3 of the top 5 players for consecutive games won ever. As a result, we saw fit to seed them straight into the semifinals. But what that means is they did not get a chance to compete in the quarterfinal match. So this is a rehearsal of sorts for them. No prize money is at stake, just the chance to compete on the Alex Trebek stage, on this, the 2nd anniversary of his passing. Earlier this year, I noted that Ken didn't mention Alex Trebek's birthday in the Jeopardy preamble that day. I still don't know why not. So what do you say, Amy, Matt, Mattea? Shall we play the game he loved? There was a numbers category, which we'll get to in a minute. The last category was Remembering Alex Trebek. We want to remind you that the #1 song of 2002 was How You Remind Me by this Chad Kroger group. After Mattea answered, "What's Nickelback?" Ken told her, "Yes, Canada's proud." Well, at least the first question and answer was related to Canada, which brought us Alex Trebek. Though I don't know if Nickelback was the most appropriate since I know they're notorious or something.
Next morning's edition. Matt.
Hi, Ken.
Matt buzzed in just to greet Ken.
What's Dewey defeats Truman?
Oh, he actually did give an answer. This dance anthem by Pink says, "We'll be looking flashy in my Mercedes-Benz." Matt and Amy buzzed in and answered wrong, only for Mattea to answer, "What is Get the Party Started?" After she did, she added, "One of my favorite songs from when I was like 4. At least she remembers. Meanwhile, I'm surprised Amy answered wrong since the exact same song came up in her 22nd game.
Amy.
Was Pink?
That's her.
Maybe she was too busy thinking about Lose Yourself, which was released the same year. Well, speak of the devil. Lose Yourself has the meta lyrics, and there's no movie, there's no this actor, this is my life. After Amy answered, "Who is Mekhi Phifer?" she added, "One of my favorite songs from when I was 27. Matt, Mattea, and the audience laughed. In the mini anecdotal interviews, Ken noted they all had different occupations from when they first played on Jeopardy! I could have sworn he said this in the preamble when I first watched it. Just this alone, though, also reminds me that this just feels like a popularity contest. I thought they were on the top 5 for most games won, and their occupations changed. Meanwhile, Ryan is still a rideshare driver, and Jonathan is still an actor. Mattea's anecdote was about Margaret Atwood on a pair of socks. After she told this story, Ken brought up that the Prime Minister texted her, to which Mattea said he tweeted about her. Now I wonder if he's seen any of her games. Ken told her, "I love how Canadian your stories are," to which Mattea added, "I'm really, the kids from Degrassi now hang out with me, Ken." Matt's anecdote was about baseball before adding he's on stage with the Jeopardy GOATs. Then Matt corrected Ken, suggesting he would have been a postdoctoral researcher, whether or not he was on Jeopardy! I have to make a correction too because Matt is a GOAT himself. Amy's anecdote was she got to speak at the White House. So between the Prime Minister tweeting about Mattea and Amy speaking at the White House, I do admire how patriotic these stories are. Alex's hometown was in this city, long known as the nickel capital of the world. Wait a minute, there's a typo. There's no S after Alex. Do I even need to say it? Sadie Goldberger leaving out the N and Harriet Tubman. After Mattea buzzed and answered, "What's Sudbury?" Ken told her, nailing the Canadiana again. Matt got the first daily double. Ken reminded him there's nothing at stake. He made it a true daily double by saying, I'd like to wager $1,200 of whatever we're playing for. Got it right, and was $2,400. Normally the human body contains this number of chromosomal pairs. After Amy answered, what's 23? Ken added, I don't know if you noticed, but the numbers in that category, 40, 23, 38, and 74, which is larger than all of them, before swearing.
Amy.
What is 23?
That's correct. I don't know if you noticed, but the numbers in that category, 40, 23, 38, and 74, which is larger than all of them.
No.
Oh, we'll just pretend.
This made me even less fond of the numbers category. After Matt answered, what's 40, to the question that had his namesake and Amy's number of wins, Ken repeated, the number of responses in that category were 40, 23, 38, and then 74, which is larger than any of them, may be of some specific relevance to your Jeopardy streaks. Amy entered the first round winning $3,800. Matt was in second place at $3,400, and Mattea was in third place at $2,800. Chronological in the number of wins. There have been a few potpourri-related categories recently. This time it actually is potpourri. Rhymes with a dwarf. This should be fun. Wrong but excellent. This is more confusing than this category's confusing category. Mattea got the first daily double. She made a true daily double by saying she'd like to wager 2,800 magic beans. I did miss her side comments. She got it right and went to $5,600.
He got both daily doubles.
Matt got the second daily double in Double Jeopardy, made it a true daily double, and the answer was easy for me. 1856, the Treaty of Paris ends this war. What is Crimea? That's taken up $5,200. Wait, were all three daily doubles true daily doubles and answered correctly? Mattea ran the potpourri category. Nobody answered the last question in Double Jeopardy. Amy was in second place at $7,400. Matt was in third place at $3,600, and Mattea was in the runaway lead at $17,600. The final Jeopardy category was chemical element names. The question was, these three elements whose names begin with two vowels are iodine, and these two, one synthetic and one natural. I'm pretty sure one of them was named after Einstein. Matt answered Einsteinium. Amy answered europium. Ken told him, you have the makings of a pretty good response here. The answer was europium and Einsteinium, putting it together. Mattea was the only one to completely answer correctly. I didn't think I'd say that. She didn't risk anything, leaving her final score at $17,600. Mattea won the exhibition game. The only Canadian super champion won the game, airing on Alex Trebek's passing. You know what? This makes the exhibition game almost worthwhile. I actually am really glad that she won. I mean, I wasn't rooting for anyone, and now that she won on the day that Alex Trebek passed, this just makes it so much better. The overheard on set was titled, Thank You, Alex. Mattea said she only thought of trying out for Jeopardy because Alex Trebek passed away, before apologizing for putting a damper on the fun half hour they just had. You're fine, Mattea. Ken added, no, we thought this was a perfect way to commemorate the second anniversary of his passing. Mattea also mentioned she didn't take the time to try out when it was a scheduled test. Yeah, but I just before the anytime test, when it was a scheduled thing, I just never actually bothered to sit down and do the test at the scheduled time. And then I don't know, the pandemic made people do a lot of things that they've been putting off, I think. And mine was trying out for the show. Ken then went on to ask Amy and Matt the same thing. I'm not sure if I asked Amy this, and I know I haven't asked Matt. Did you try out multiple times for this show before he made it on? I know he didn't ask Amy specifically. I do remember that she mentioned it on the anecdote in the game she lost. I distinctly remember that it was her girlfriend who helped her get on the show because of the pop culture categories, and Ken and Amy agreed that in order to do well on Jeopardy, you have to know the pop culture categories, which evidently paid off in tonight's game.
And I said it's a good thing that I did not get on before I started dating my girlfriend. She's a bit younger than me and much cooler than me. So the reason I know anything about current day pop culture is all thanks to her. Ken comments, yeah, I've often said to really go long on Jeopardy, you need to be young enough to still know the pop charts, or I guess know someone who does. That's a good tip.
After Amy said she's been trying out for 15 years, Ken said, right, I remember that. Matt tried out multiple times and he was working on his personality instead. Well, I actually had more fun than I thought I would have imagined watching the exhibition game. Now that the quarterfinals are over, and now that we finally got to see all three prepare for a warm-up game, let's see how they'll all do in the semifinals.
And as always, thank you for watching.